presidente del Consejo Directivo, querido Mauricio Kersenovich, estimado presidente de Ramat Shalom, gobernador, señor Ari Friedman, hermanas y hermanos, buenas noches. First of all, thanks for the warm welcome. Really, I felt immediately at home. And you're absolutely right. The Jewish community in Mexico is indeed a bridge between both countries. I have a perspective having served in Europe, where you have important Jewish communities. The one I'm coming from, Belgium, France, definitely one of the largest. But what I have experienced here during these last 4 weeks is really unprecedented. So, kol hakavod, I don't have any other way of expressing this appreciation. Sorry, I haven't mentioned an important person present here, our dear Consul General. Buenas noches. And regarding all the nice words, Mauricio, you have bestowed on me, you know, in these situations I always say, it's such a pity that my mother isn't alive anymore. But more seriously, you came to hear comments on the current political situation in Israel, and in order to try and make sense in such a complex situation, I preferred really to speak in English this evening. I promise that I made extra effort, and maybe next time the talk would be in Spanish. So let's perhaps start with the statistics or the results. Now, I don't know if you have checked, and there are 3 sources, the 3 main Israeli television stations, and there are some minor nuances between the 3. So I'll try and give the average. Likud scored, let's say, 31 mandates in average, because you have on Reshet 30 and on Kan 31, and Keshet gives 32, so it's an average of 31. Now, compared with the April elections, Likud had 35, but you had Kulanu, who had 4 mandates, and Kulanu, Kahlon, came back to his home party, to the Likud. So in total it's 39, and now they are averaging 31. So they are weaker. Kahol Lavan in April at 35, and now, according to all estimates, they have 32. Now, again, things can change, because the final results will be given tomorrow noon Israeli time, when they will include the votes of the soldiers, and this usually can make a slight difference of 1 mandate here or there. But let's say Kahol Lavan, for the time being, has 32, so it lost 3 mandates compared to April. Now the big winners, Arishima Meuchedet, the joint Arab party, or it's made out of 4 parties actually. They received 13, and according to another estimate, even 15, whereas in April they were split and they had 6 and 4. So it's quite a substantive increase. Another big winner is Lieberman, Israel Beiteinu. They had in April 5, and now it's somewhere around 8, maybe 9 even. Shas more or less remained as it was, 8 and now 9, sorry. Yadut Torah 8. Yemina as 6 or 7, where the previous Ichud Mifleget HaYamin without Shaked and Bennett had in April 5. So they got a bit stronger. Avodah Gesher have 6. Now in April they ran separately, Avodah and Orly Levy, the daughter of the former foreign minister, David Levy. She didn't make it. She didn't pass the threshold of 3.25. So, addition, it's like it was, 6 mandates. And the Democratic Party, Machaneh Demokrati, between 5 and 6. And Meretz, which is the major component, had 4. So they increased also a bit. Now, according to the 3 stations, the coalition of the right has between 53 and 56, and what they call center-left, I have my reservations if Kachol Lavan is really center-left, between 56 and 59, and Israel Beitenu has become the deal breaker. Take into account that in the past, the Haredi parties, both Shas and Yadut Torah, were the deal breakers. They were the ones who could decide whether the Avodah, the Labour Party, would come into power, or whether the Likud would come into power. Now it seems, I'm very careful, it seems that Lieberman can call the shots. I don't know if someone had the chance to listen to the declarations or the speeches given by Gantz and Netanyahu. Gantz didn't mention the Arab parties in his speech. That was interesting because for the first time in the political history of Israel, the Arabs said quite openly that they would consider joining a government. That has never been the case. Ayman Odeh, Ahmed Tibi have said that they might, under certain conditions, they might consider joining the government of course with Gantz, not with Netanyahu obviously. But as I said, Gantz hasn't mentioned the Arab parties at all in his speech he delivered late in the evening, or rather this morning in Israel time. He did talk about the rifts in Israeli society. Now this is important. This has really been at the heart of the last 2 political campaigns. The polarization between the political parties, the 2 big political parties, and within the Israeli society. So much so that one of the major think tanks in Israel, the INSS, it's the Israeli National Security Studies think tank in Tel Aviv University, published an analysis about the issue of the resilience of Israeli society and how it plays into the designs of our enemies, whether to launch an attack, to initiate terrorist operations and activities against Israel or not. Let me remind you what Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah in Lebanon, said after what is called the second Lebanon war in 2006, he said, because then he spoke about the Israeli society like a web of spiders. I don't know if someone remembers that. He said, yes, they are weak. They don't want to make any sacrifices. They don't want to defend their homeland anymore. They have become weak. And when he went to war, and we all know the aftermath, they lost and lost heavily. He was quoted saying, had I known that the Israeli society was still so strong, I wouldn't have gone to war. So this is an important element, and it's not by chance that someone like Benny Gantz, who was chief of staff, but also all the others, understand the centrality of this element with regard to the political campaign. Now, one should be very attentive to not only to what is said, but also to what is not said by Gantz and all the others. They do not exclude anymore, at least not publicly, sitting together with the Likud party headed by Netanyahu. That was not the case previously. Now, we will have to see, of course, what will happen with the open criminal files against Netanyahu. There will be a hearing by the Attorney General sometime in October. But all the potential successors of Netanyahu at the head of the Likud party have all given allegiance and said immediately after the results that the one and only candidate of the Likud to be prime minister is Netanyahu. It's true for Israel Katz, it's true for Erdan, and for all the others. So, for now, Likud is presenting a united front. Now, what is happening on the left side of the political scene? Well, with all the energy, with all the attempts to put forward a more social agenda, Orly Levy, but also Amir Peretz, who heads now the Labour Party, are two of the main figures representing the social agenda in Israeli politics and in the Israeli Knesset. And I still believe that it is an issue which is constantly present in Israeli society, but looking at the results, I would say that it didn't play a major role. Not only judging by the fact that they didn't increase their power, but also looking at Kahlon and the Likud, who tried to improve the conditions for young couples to buy apartments, to have a solution for the housing problem. Yes, the Likud got a bit weaker, but to my judgment, it's not because of the failure of the policy of Kahlon. So, what was at the core of this campaign? I would say, and I'm really sorry to say that, it was the confrontation between Bibi Netanyahu, who accused, and again he did so in his speech, who accused the press, the media, to be biased, to be supportive of the other political side. He, of course, excluded any possibility of sitting down with the Arab parties. He was talking about a wide Zionist coalition, which, by the way, means that he might also consider sitting down with Kahol Lavan, even though his first choice, that's for sure, is trying to build a right and more rightist, not to say far right, coalition. But that was at the core of the campaign, the confrontation between Netanyahu representing the rank and file of Israeli society, the people of the periphery, etc., versus the elite. And this is something strange, because, and it has been going on, I think, since Menachem Begin won the elections in the famous Mahapach in 1977, when he was the one, by the way, appointing David Levy at the time as the Minister for Housing, and talking a lot about the injustice to the Sephardis in Israel. And of course, what is paradoxical is that the Likud party hasn't had any Sephardi prime minister. I mean, not Arik Sharon, and not Ehud Olmert, and certainly not Benjamin Netanyahu. Whereas on the other side, you had Avi Gabay, and now Amir Peretz, and also in the past Amir Peretz, and Fouad Ben Eliezer, all being the heads of the Labour Party. But that doesn't matter. The fact is that it's so deeply rooted in the psyche of the Israeli voter that the feeling is that the elites, both the press, the media, the Supreme Court of Israel, and of course all the leftists are trying to depose a prime minister in ways that are not acceptable in a democracy. Now, it's true that in the background, one should remember that once you had a very strong peace-supporting movement in Israel, Shalom Achshav, now you almost do not hear about their activities anymore, and there is fatigue in the Israeli opinion, public opinion, about the process with the Palestinians, a big disappointment of the lack of leadership on the part of the Palestinians, with Arafat, who I believe was the one who could have led to a solution. He had the mandate, he had the support of the people, but he didn't want or wasn't capable of transforming himself from a terrorist leader into a statesman. And with Mahmoud Abbas, maybe he wants, I'm not sure, but let's say he does, he hasn't the same clout as Arafat. So at the end of the day, it's true, there is no option on the Palestinian side to go ahead. Unfortunately, I'm saying that really with a big pain in my heart, but there is no option on the Palestinian side to go ahead to go into a political process and to find a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So disappointment of Oslo, and on the other side, a quite successful economic leadership and policy of Netanyahu. One cannot take that away from him. I mean, look at the innovation, success, technology, cyber. That was his dream. concentrate all the components of cyber, army, research, universities, companies in one site in Beersheba, that is all to his credit. And on top of that, his stature as a statesman or a leader in the world, where you have a lack of leadership nowadays. Look at what Netanyahu has been able to do, of course with the United States, but also with Russia. He's the one who has been able to organize a summit of the chiefs of intelligence of Russia, United States and Israel in Jerusalem. That's something unheard of. And he meets as on equal footing, I would say, with Modi of India, with Xi of China, and others. He has really put Israel on the map, as one would say. So I think that all these elements combined give him a lot of credit. And on the other side, you have this very respectful leadership of former chiefs of staff, 3 of them, one also former Minister of Defense, but lacking, at the end of the day, lacking the experience and also the finesse and the mastership of a Benjamin Netanyahu, who really has this magical touch when it comes to internal politics. So, to sum it up, because I would like us to have a conversation rather than me giving a monologue, to sum it up, and it's not by chance that I haven't given you a forecast of what might happen. You know, in the Holy Scriptures it said that the nevuah was given to children and to shotim. I don't know, it's locals or something like that. So I'm neither, nor a child, nor an unsane person, I hope. So I won't give you a forecast. No, it's really so complex. I mean, will the Haredim participate in a government, a broad coalition with Yair Lapid? I doubt it. What about Bogi Ya'alon? I just mentioned the former Minister of Defense of Netanyahu, who left the party because of Netanyahu, because he hasn't changed his views. He remains a true Likudnik, but he just couldn't stay anymore. So, is that an option? I don't know. It's really too complex. Let's wait and see. They have 24 days plus 28 days plus an extra 14 days when the president decides to give the chance to the candidate with the most supporting votes. So it's not necessarily the biggest party, it's the one that has received the most recommendations by all the other parties. And then if it doesn't work, the other candidate will have again 28 days and an extra 14 days. So it might take us long weeks. Paciencia. Hopefully, we'll not, sablanut. Hopefully, we'll not go to a third campaign and elections. That would be too much. Thank you very much. Toda Allah.